All right, welcome back. This is the Something About Your podcast. I am Kent Lindstrom. This is part 2 with Charlie Recksieck. Charlie Recksieck is a musician, an entrepreneur, an engineer. I'm going to mix up the order because he is great at all of those things. But this time our thoughts turn to music, and he's going to talk about that aspect of his expertise. He's a musician. He's always been a great musician, but he also has a band and performs regularly. Last time I kind of began by talking a little bit about something called Napster. For those of you under 30, look it up. Another kind of funny story, this kind of relates to the music thing and how young people in Silicon Valley way overread how important their application of technology to music is. Mark Zuckerberg famously founded Facebook at Harvard, comes out, and when it's not clear that it's going to be what it's since become, comes out to Silicon Valley for a summer, and as the legend goes, never went back and built Facebook. The interesting thing is that when he came here for this summer, he had a completely different project that was his primary passion. It was not Facebook. It was, in fact, a peer-to-peer file sharing thing called WireHug. Now, we've seen a couple companies emerge, Box.net, Dropbox. So WireHug, a file sharing network, was not the worst idea in the world. However, it was music-focused. He's a young guy and he's into music. But Mark Zuckerberg actually had to be talked out of focusing on WireHug, asked to push WireHug to the side so he could focus on Facebook. Two paths diverged. There's another lesson in Silicon Valley. Sometimes you turn left instead of right, and the world's completely different. In any case, it's WireHug. We're talking music this time. I'm Kent Lindstrom. I'm your host. This is the Something About Your podcast. My guest today, Charlie Recksieck. Part 2, talking about music.
These things
Like
can
what?
go
So
haywire.
if I'm doing a TV show and there's a song, I gotta have this song.
You'll just spend. There's a price tag, and sometimes it can be crazy.
Who do I call? Like, what do I do? Like.
Well, you can look it up. I mean, so
Yeah.
you go to the performer, you look up the song. There's 3 performing rights organizations in the United States. CSAC's kind of a minor one.
Right.
It's a BMI and ASCAP,
Right.
SCAP. And
So they have a guy, if I call up, they're like, yes, like, what would you like?
you wouldn't call. You'd kind of just look up on their website and who controls this, and you say, okay, whose song is this?
Yeah.
And you can find who the publisher is, and there's usually a phone number or an address, and then you would actually go ahead and finding them. Then a lot of them have straight deals, and some of them have some relationships now with publishers who have actually get the rights to actually sell it on behalf of them. Now so sometimes it can be not even that clear who you're talking to and actually who controls the rights. And then if you want to go deeper, if you haven't signed off and gotten all the musicians' permission on that thing, some guy can come out of the woodwork 20 years later and say, hey, I made that bass line on whatever.
That is just nuts.
Yeah. And it's really a wrangle. So, like, controlling your rights or having known rights is a real asset. Like, they tell like performers to write their own stuff. If it's a big deal to say, I control 100% of these rights. Because the main thing is these guys, like, film and TV is such a mess. It's such a chaotic production schedule. And music is always the last thing.
Yeah.
They're always behind, they're always late, and there's always a deadline. So, like, by the time they get to need music, it's we need music in about 90 minutes. So, like, can you sign off on this right now?
It's funny. It's kind of a life lesson, like, own the damn thing.
Totally,
I heard an interview with Norman Lear recently, the TV producer. Sharp as hell.
Totally. Even at past 90. He made the rounds with his book. He's terrific.
Yeah, he had a book.
Yeah.
And he basically said he was writing. I mean, he came to Hollywood back and he got a job. He was in World War II. And
Right.
He got a job by walking into a theater and meeting some other Jewish dude or something like that. And he was like, I mean, it was just crazy where he's like, I was writing for this show. And I realized that the guy who owned the show was making all the money. And that's why I switched to owning shows, and that's why I'm worth all this money now.
Totally, yeah.
So I guess
he left like a killer. I don't know, something like Jerry, Martin Lewis, or something. Something was like killing us. So now, why don't I just leave and own something? Yeah. Same thing. Yeah, if you control your rights, that is the thing about being a musician these days, or mainly a songwriter. Which, if you're in a band and you're not getting songwriting percentage,
by the way,
there's a real dichotomy.
So how does that work? I write a song, and some other dude sings it. That model,
right?
Like I wrote it. Like I wrote, White Christmas.
Okay, right.
And someone else sings it, and they play on the radio. Who's making the money?
You're making the money. Yeah.
Or the writer?
Yeah. Now, granted, in film and TV, there's two things. There's a performance and a sing. So there's two different streams, one for the recording and one for the songwriting.
Yeah.
But other than that, like the songwriting have better royalties. Like a lot of times the music, once I record on this record company, they own it. That's it. I gave it to them. They're making money off the sales. Why I paid me. But as a songwriter, your rights are protected. And for whatever reason, those lawyers did a better job with songwriting protection.
Right.
But as long as that you keep selling copies, now it's gotten even easier. This like total mechanical way of doing it. We did an ELO song, and I used to was trying to hunt out the rights for them. Now it's like you just put it on there. It goes through the performance rights organization. They get their 8 cents. And
really,
yeah.
And is that what happens?
If I get paid, then they just get these little checks. I'm with ASCAP, and the royalty checks are just insane. They're like, I don't even that much, but you get them. But you get these long statements of things of like percentages of a penny. Because, I don't know, like one song was played in Romania 20 times, and then you see 0.00005 cents. Yeah.
That's just great.
It's staggering.
So there's guys in L.A., so performers like Katy Perry.
Right.
Somebody writes those songs, and she sings them. That's how that works, right?
Yes. Although then there's the other trick of a lot of times if you're an aspiring writer, Nashville's really big on this too in country, is the star will put it on their record for these kind of like wink, wink, okay, I'm a co-writer of the song, even though they did.
This is the Taylor Swift model, right?
There's some of that.
She co-wrote with the fun dot guy or whatever.
Oh, she does do a lot of straight writing, but there's a lot of people that just pile these on. Like, okay, I'll do that.
Well, so what happens? What's the Nashville model then? They put someone on the album, they don't pay them, or what?
Well, they'll still pay them, but then now they're cutting. Now there's 3 writers, and so I should have been sharing with one other person. And now I'm sharing with 3 people.
So Katy Perry puts her name on the songs, as a writer.
Yeah. No, I can't speak to her situation,
but
I think
she's fabulous.
Yeah, exactly.
But in
terrific.
General,
yeah.
Like, but there's a guy. Like, there's these. Like there's guys in LA who just write songs.
Oh, there's some. Yeah, there's, and then it's not a huge. Once you're known as one of those guys, but you're specializing. Like you're not going to write a Katy Perry. And a Taylor Swift song. You got to stay in a lane. There's like, okay, you're known for beats, and a lot of times there's even specialties like, okay, I'm a beats producer or something. Like I just work with like writing around. I create a rhythm beat or top line. Like that's not even like, okay, that's just melody only. You might have like a chord guy, and you might have like the guy who writes like.
Right.
So there's a lot of really weird specialties that it's really drawn out.
Is there a guy? Like, isn't there? I thought I read about a guy who's done like 15. He's done a weird number of number 1 hits.
There's a few, like Dr. Luke. These guys are a lot of time have to, especially things like Katy Perry type music is so beat oriented that the producer is usually now also the songwriter. It's just like beats and like you can't even discern that many instruments other than like kind of electronic, some things. So there's not like. It's not like he wrote, okay, it goes B flat, then it goes F minor. Right. It's like, okay, here's the beat. And
so he didn't write a piece of sheet music.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Do they have sheet music anymore?
They do, and it's actually easier to make sheet music, too, now from the technology. Right. I can just put it in my software program wherever. I can just record it on a MIDI keyboard. In fact, I was just doing this for horn arrangements, a guy last week. Yeah. And I just, you just press the sheet music button, and it just makes your sheet music.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Guy. It's kind of fantastic.
So what happens like after? So 1999, we have Napster. Suddenly, there's this explosion. Like, what do you think is the big impact? And then MySpace, where anybody can find everything. You can discover small bands and big bands.
I think it's the listening. We don't all listen to the same thing anymore. Yeah, and I mean, all of society's kind of happened like that. And there's more cable channels, and like, I mean, in some ways, a friend of mine's father once said like 1965 was the high point of civilization. And he was going, I didn't know what he was talking about. And he says, yeah, you could eat bacon with a clean conscience.
Oh, yeah.
Sex was getting a lot freer.
Yeah. AIDS wasn't here yet.
Yeah, AIDS wasn't here yet. There's a lot of things. And like his last one was like you could throw trash out the window. But the middle class could like buy a house, and we're all, it's a really weird period of like, let's say from 1950 in the United States, 1950, let's say, but in the 90s. Yeah. This weird period where we're all on the same page. Yeah. Like, we all watched and listened to the same thing.
I remember that experience with music where there'd be, like, a summer hit. Like, it was like, everyone's listening to Joe Walsh.
Right, exactly.
Like, that was this one summer where that was big. And, like, now you're sort of like, have you heard
it's all kind of drifting. Sometimes there'd be the song with something like Get Lucky last year was but even that wasn't even close to what things were. Like it was all through culture. Like it was not. It's never happened before, and it's probably never going to happen again. Yeah. But like when we were growing up, there was not a goddamn kid at school that did not see Happy Days the night before. On Wednesday morning, we were just hanging our coats up, and you can't believe the Fonz did this. Like we all were on the same page in the culture. Yeah.
That is really I remember the record store experience where you'd go, and when I was a kid, like the top 40 would come out, and they'd print it.
Yeah. There was Licorice Pizza at the store down the street. Right. We'd have their top 40, and I'd go look at it. And I would listen to Casey Kasem.
Yep.
And I had certain songs I was kind of rooting for. Like, I really hope Stevie Wonder, I wish, gets up to number 1 this week. And I would be kind of listening with bated breath. It was weird.
That was a crazy experience. Like, the record store, I mean, that's one that I'm a bit nostalgic for. Like,
totally.
It's too bad
and then there was two. There was kind of the big record store, and then there was the super cool record store, which those guys always irritated me, even as a kid. But
well, because they hated everything.
Totally, right.
Unless you're listening to John Coltrane.
Yeah, and it was just so simple. Yeah, exactly. It was just so simple. If something sold, it was shit, and it was just like, okay,
right.
And then everybody, of course, sold out after their first 2 albums. Like, okay, whatever.
But it was such a visceral experience. Like, you'd go in, and they always had a good sound system that was loud.
You'd look and you'd sample and you'd make. I mean, it was. Again, though, we were all kind of on the same page, so it was easy to know what a hit was. Like, there'll never be anything as big as like the Beatles again. Even though people have sold more records, it's surprising. Like Usher and Mariah Carey sold way more than the Beatles, surprisingly. But like if you look at a Billboard chart now or 10 years ago, like I probably don't have a friend that has bought one of those 10 songs. And granted, we're old, so it's irrelevant for us, but. Everybody had whatever record was coming out at the time. Like, I mean, everybody had Fleetwood Mac rumors or whatever.
What do you think about? There's this difference in experience of one of the things that you used to do is you'd buy an album and you'd play it. Like, you bought it because you spent $12 on it. It was all you had, and you'd read every lyric and you played it. Like,
you played the hell out of it.
Times.
Certain ones I remember because it was on a side though. It was like the hit side. Like Hotel California on the front. Side A was all the hits. I didn't listen to that second side for like 10 years. I don't think I got to it until it was a CD. I like those songs
too.
This
is pretty good. Like, what do you how is that? And so you could put together an album that had an arc and a theme. And people would listen to it like 10 times. And now you just kind of pull out a song and you're like, Get Lucky's a cool song.
Yeah. That changes the way people make music. But I think, all of the things that, there's a couple of things. Yeah, the changing from an album experience back to a single. Again, that's kind of going back, like, in the old days, you just bought a single.
I guess that's true.
I
guess the album thing was a 70s
It was definitely a same thing, and they really were kind of trying. It was people used to accuse the record company with just trying to popularize albums just to get you from $1 to $8.
Interesting.
And it was like people were pissed at them for that, and then we all kind of fell in love with albums and FM DJs.
Yeah, because I guess the Beatles I Want to Hold Your Hand was not part of a larger narrative.
It wasn't
some
until
other
Sgt. Pepper. Yeah, they weren't doing. They just said, but I don't know. The album was kind of an interesting thing, and it that seems to have gone away. But again, that just like the we were all watching one thing. It was a really unique period. It wasn't. But we forget that albums were always that way. No, it wasn't. Yeah.
So MySpace comes along, and now you can listen to anything. That must have transformed. There's a thing in music called the A&R person. Albums and records.
Artists and repertoire. Yeah.
But it was a guy who used to...
They developed the talent at the record.
Who just went to all the clubs every night and would discover somebody.
It was the glamour job everybody wanted to be like.
Job. And then that job just got really easy with MySpace, right? You just... Okay.
Well, all this stuff kind of changed where artists were basically kind of running their own careers. Once the record company money started drying up, and especially Napster being a big part of it, once that kind of dried up, then it's all up to the artist. Okay, you got to make yourself a success. And then record companies would kind of show up. The expression would be, you've got to start a fire, and then like an A&R guy would show up with a match. You know, just and say, okay. So it was... You have to kind of build your own career. Then you can go find whatever, which is ridiculous. So like including everybody, agents, record companies, or something like that. You won't be put into it. Like even TV shows, you think, okay, I just want the right song to service the artist.
Yeah.
But like, no, you know what? Nobody watches this in Phoenix. There's this hot band in Phoenix. Let's just throw them a bunch. That'll get. And that's a sad state of TV. They'll put a song on TV just so they can get 8,000 extra viewers in some market. It's kind of ridiculous.
Right. It just seems the explosion of music seems crazy,
but it's tough for you don't you record albums differently, but it's tough to be a consumer. You used to kind of people would tell you, the record store guy would tell you, and your taste would be relatively on the same page, or you just read Rolling Stone, it takes a lot more work to just even be a listener.
It's exhausting. So a couple things. One experience I had was what's the thing? Pandora. Mm-hmm. And you can create a station where you list things you like. And what you realize is that everything you like if you put 2 or 3 similar bands together, they all sound the same.
Yeah.
Like, so if you put in like Dave Matthews and a couple jam bands, like Uncle Tupelo and String Cheese Incident, all sound the same.
And so the more identifiable it is, though, it's easier to put them, like, okay, my Dave Matthews channel, I could just run, Jack Johnson. And I don't even know exactly what their formula is.
I try to punk. I'll put in like the Chili Peppers and then like Miles Davis.
Right.
And go, all right, what is your algorithm?
What do you end up with?
They just go back and forth between like jazz and like LA.
Because they claim they're listening to instrumentation. Like, oh, there's a low piano, there's a tack piano in this. Okay, we'll play Pet Sounds because they had like a tack piano.
Yeah, then you throw in like, just try to screw them up, throw in whatever, Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera.
It's weird. I listen to my own station for my band, Big Fellas, and I listen to it like that. I don't even like these others. So I don't even know what the formula is. But
it's weird. I miss so there was this brief period in time where there were program directors at radio stations who actually would pick stuff. Like, then there became the program directors who just did the surveys and figured out it was popular.
Right, and then payola was a big deal. But these guys would control everything, but you would just pay, and it was just standard. That's right. So like, you just paid a guy to be played on the radio.
About that. There was a huge phase in the music industry where...
Oh, it was massive for years.
It was fraud, right?
And not just that people, it was like they would have here... They really tried to clean it up in the 70s and was still going on, but it was going on forever. Like, I bet you, Tommy Dorsey was, paying people to play it.
So a record label would pay to get their song on the radio.
Yeah.
And it was
that was in their fund. And these guys would walk around with cash, and then apparently people got more upset or self-righteous about it when it was just like, okay, we'll just give Coke. Let's forget the cash. We'll just give Coke.
Yeah, right. That was the 80s.
Yeah, exactly.
That was... Like, that got broken up or something, right? It was illegal.
It became really illegal. They tried to stiffen the penalty, and then the FCC got involved, and then the fines got up higher. It
was like racketeering or something.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And I forgot about that phase.
It was bad. And which is not to say there's not some wink thing here, but it's a little less outright. Like, they used to just drop paper bags of cash.
Well, I don't think you can go to Apple and say, hey...
Yeah, exactly. Move this up.
How about we're at the top of the store this week, and maybe this bag gets left here?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I don't think that works. What do you think happened on the? So is there a different kind of artist that's successful now? Meaning, the person who gets famous on YouTube may not be the brilliant songwriter in their bedroom, or maybe it is. Maybe that stuff just rises.
They can be. I mean, it's. I mean, people always lament what's going on, and it's tough for an independent artist. You're not going to make a ton of money, and it's killing off those artists that were like kind of in the middle. Let's say. Somebody like a Husker Du or something like that. Okay, they were good and like they were well respected. A band like that would not. Guys like that, like somebody like Elliott Smith, like these guys are renting houses. Like they're all renters. They're not making enough money to. You'd think, they're international. They're touring all over the place. They're playing gigantic crowds. Maybe if they go to England, they're playing 100,000 seater. But no, they're still renting a house. Like they're having trouble making their car payments. That's what's going on now. Where in the old days. Yeah. Okay, you made your solid amount of money. Yeah. So that part, the bottom's dropping out. But then the plus side is they say, like everything across the internet, they're trying to say the democratization of everything is now. And then so now somebody can just cut an album in their house and put it on YouTube and sell it on iTunes, and they can make some money. And it's possible. So you can't underestimate. That is a great thing. Those people had zero chance. If you weren't signed by a record company, you were just not in the game. You had $0 of sales. Yeah. So now, if you're really smart, you can hustle around and maybe make, I don't know, $1,000 a year or $100,000 if you.
And then you have the emergence of like a Lily Allen or a Lord or whoever allegedly came from the internet. Although who knows? Like,
I think their fan bases were kind of like. It is fun. If it just they used to be able to fake people out like record company. Okay, hey, great. Look, they got all these users. They already got this many likes or followers or what was it on my friends? I forgot. Yeah, friends. So they got this many. You could just trick people into thinking you're popular. Just like before SEO search engine stuff was good. You could just fake people out and thinking you're popular. So they finally got a little bit more hep to that. But you could. Again, it's just you want to show that you're popular. You need to give record companies or consumers like a reason to like you. Like everybody's kind of belaboring every decision. Should I buy this record? And then I don't know who does this, but they look to see how popular. Oh, they're number 2 on the chart. Now I'll buy it. Some people need to be told this is okay to buy. Yeah. Or in a concert, like, oh, I wouldn't listen to Flaming Lips, but they got a bunch of guys in costumes on a stage. This is a thing now. Now I'll go see them. Like, you just need, everybody needs a reason to buy into something.
Well, the internet's really opened up for me kind of what's kind of going on with music in the world and how it is really hard. Like, I'll go to Pitchfork, which is kind of the hip, I don't know, music review thing, like Rolling Stone. Uh-huh. First of all, it's all like electronica, which just like, awful. I heard Kraftwerk like back in the day. I get it. I'm not into it.
I can't deal with it. Yeah,
but it's all that. Yeah, and then it's all these nuanced analyses of like why this electronica is better.
And electronica is everywhere. Remember, like I was hearing. Ridiculous. Oh God, Adam Carolla's podcast. He was talking about this, but that like okay, you used to go to a sports bar. You'd hear like I don't know Leonard Skinner or something like that. Like we're hearing like thing that used to be. You used to expect this like beat music.
It's ridiculous.
You'd expect like kind of amyl nitrate poppers like at a disco in like 1978. Now we're listening to this music just at the chicken wings place. It's kind of ridiculous.
It just drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So the Pitchfork on the review sites have all this stuff.
And so I don't know. It's just crazy. And then trying to find a show that I want to go to. One of the things I've realized. So I'm like, this band is really good.
Right.
And then you go try to figure out when are they coming to San Francisco. Well, they never come to San Francisco. They're all in Brooklyn all the time, for starters. Yeah. And then you start realizing, the West is like really big. So it's probably hard to tour here.
Totally.
It's probably hard to go from L.A. to here to Seattle.
That's what I've done, and that's my only route. Yeah. Like that's the only people like where I can go, and it's a dead zone. Like you go to L.A. and there's like you're not even going to pull if you don't have much in L.A. going anywhere. You're not even going to pull in L.A. You're actually if you're a small kind of regional touring band. You do much better in these small cities where people just go see music.
Right.
If you're in like L.A. or San Francisco or New York, everybody's worrying like, are these guys cool enough for me to see? There's a million other bands. If you play Manitowoc, Wisconsin, you're just the band that's in town that night, so everybody goes.
Right. And so then you realize like where people are, they're touring all over Europe and Asia.
Yeah.
And then there's this festival thing going on where they're not playing anywhere. But they're like at festival, like the Pogues are playing this year,
right?
At a festival. So I'm like,
if you can do that, that's again like the same thing. Why bother? Why should Britney Spears lug herself around the country? Let everybody come to, or just play a couple of festivals. Yeah. But the West it's brutal. When you go north of LA, if you're not playing Santa Barbara or north of San Francisco, it's okay. Yeah. That's it. I mean,
and even San Francisco, I feel like we don't. I look at these bands, I'm like, I like these guys. I want to see if they're coming here. And they're not. They're like to the East Coast, and they pop over to Europe. San
Francisco used to have better sized venues for like good bands that were known. Like we kind of lost that. Now you're down with like kind of really crummy acts or way up. It's got to be a stadium. Like we've lost.
Like Billy Joel's playing the AT&T Park.
Yeah,
so you can do that.
Yep.
But and like the music scene here is just like not. I don't know.
Well, I mean, that could seem isolated, but like it probably isn't. I think that's really true. Like all these kind of medium size, like here, like something would be like Winterland or like in San Diego, like 4th and B, or I'm trying to think of other examples of this, but in different cities. But those things are kind of drying up, and you're losing the middle. You need to be bigger or smaller.
I mean, the Fillmore's still great.
Yeah,
but that's more like big acts kind of
right. And they can only have so many. When you want to just see a band at a local bar, this is the other thing too. And then that's what's happening touring is all these clubs. They've kind of stopped being promoters and stopped kind of doing their job. It's just okay. The band's we'll book this band that has a following, and I'm right. So like the extent
don't forget to tweet the show.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. There's the number of the local TV station. Nobody even does that too. Just tell your fans, and that's it. Yeah. So that job has gotten ridiculously easy. Yeah. But then what they lose is then now you don't really give a crap what they sound like. So like on Tuesday night you could have God knows what. You could have like an electronic group, and then the next night it could be metal or what. Yeah. Like so there's no continuity. I mean, in what cities have you lived? Have you ever had like 20 years ago? I knew clubs and cities that I lived in. I just said, I don't care what's playing there. I know it'll be good. Yeah.
Chicago for sure. Like there were bars you go, whatever the blues was.
Right. Exactly.
It's not like blues bands like that well anyway.
No, yeah.
But
exactly.
it was like okay, it's going to be blues.
It's just so it's not
going to be trivia night,
totally,
or whatever the hell it is.
When we play blues too, it's so embarrassing. We write so many like. I tend to overwrite. Why use 20 chords when I could use why write 3 when I could use 20? But then. So we have these songs you belabor over, and you think, it's your masterpiece, and people are just snoring by the end of it. And then you just go back and play, some blues song. Like they don't even have to know it. It's some blues song I wrote that's 3 chords, and people go nuts.
And it's a tough experience because you either need to go see a band that's just so good you want to see their show,
right?
or like you want to talk,
right?
Like you're at a jazz thing, but not talk so loud that you're like they got to be loud enough that you can kind of hang out and
for sure.
They're just the live.
Well,
band.
jazz clubs, like jazz is so small. Like you go to I've been like 5 feet away from like just Dizzy Gillespie while he's playing. It's crazy. You're like like I could drink his drink by accident. Like I'm that close.
Yeah.
I actually had one thing. I was at UCLA when the Hollywood Bowl. I remember it behind the Playboy Jazz Festival, and so Hefner would be back. So I was writing for the school paper. I was the only guy who listened to jazz, so I got the tickets. And I went backstage behind the shrimp, right behind Bill Cosby and Miles Davis, and this makes more sense now with the Cosby stuff. But so they're just talking. I'm just so starstruck. I'm right behind them, and then I see Hugh Hefner and his whatever 21-year-old wife he had at the time was walking by, and she was like kind of the most gorgeous woman I've ever seen in person. So she's walking by, and then Cosby and Miles Davis step back, so they're just on both sides of me now. So just the three of us. It's just Bill Cosby, me, and Miles Davis. And then Hefner walks back, and then Cosby and Miles Davis just look at each other and just shake each. We're all the three of us just shake each other. Oh man,
that's when you need a camera.
That I know. I wish. Yeah.
Well, why don't we let's bring it home with let's talk about technology and live performances.
Oh, okay.
Maybe this is just a opportunity to bash. But what the cell phones at the concerts?
I think
is that what's going on? Like, what do you think?
I think it's weird. I think it's not much of a big deal when you're an unknown band because like you're just so desperate. Okay, great,
But you get the bands who are like, put away your phones.
Totally. Well, I mean, not only the distracting part of it, which is bad enough, but like you want to work out. You're trying to you're workshopping new songs. Like, okay, I'm in the middle of writing a song. I'm going to try it and see how the audience goes. So it's filmed and it's posted. So like, okay, great. You can't develop. You kind of can't live and fail out in public or just kind of be a work in progress. Everything has to be finished because everything is public. Like immediately.
It's weird. I watched some of those videos of like the big Coachella and stuff like that.
Right.
And everybody has a phone out filming it.
Yeah.
But Coachella films all their stuff like in high def
available
with professionals.
Yeah, exactly.
Like what are people like? What is
are they going to go back? Who's watching? Are you going to go home and watch this?
That's what I mean. You've got like 5,000 crappy cell phone videos of the Flaming Lips.
Yeah.
It's a weird concept.
It's just kind of unnecessary. But so I don't know. I think it's kind of ridiculous. You just stand there. Everybody's just every show. You just see the same video or same selfie. It's just to prove that you were there. Like again, I guess this was what the T-shirt used to be to just prove that I was there. But now you just have the photo you post to Facebook or whatever.
Which, by the way, I'm getting a little bit tired of. Like,
totally.
I just wonder if eventually that's going to be like. I don't know. I remember how we tried to prove that we were all these different.
Yeah, I guess those restaurant food photos haven't gone away either. They're just persisting. People will not stop it.
That's true.
Yeah.
But the live shows seem to be getting. I mean, there seem to be more and more of these big shows where like there's like 5,000 people with like a camera.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
I don't know.
I think what's bigger is the technology is changing on the recording side more. It's just so easy to record.
To put something together.
It is just. I mean, I want to prove a point and record my dog just sample my dog and just have it sound like a full band. You can do that.
You probably could.
You really could.
We should put that together.
I'll give it a shot.
We should get your dog in. So is something good going to come out of that? I mean, do you think some real...
I think, it does. I think it's great. I think it's great like that anybody can make... More music has a chance to be good. Now, like the chances of that getting out in the world and being found by somebody is pretty remote. But the idea that somebody can now play... I think some of the best like songwriting is guys who aren't necessarily good at their instrument or trying a different instrument. Like... Bob Dylan doesn't know how to play the piano, but a lot of his best songs were kind of written, him playing a piano, and he couldn't have done that without being able to afford a lot of studio time.
Yeah, interesting.
But it's actually, I can get away with, I can record on records. I've recorded accordion and banjo, and, great. Sounds good enough for the record by the time we edit it and get it all fixed up. And I wouldn't have no business playing any of those live. It would be a disaster.
Yeah. It's interesting. Well, it's a crazy transformation.
Yep. Yeah, you can make full thing. I mean, you can make. But this is what I don't. Sometimes you say sometimes that's too much technology. If you gave that to Brian Wilson now, you don't hear him making incredible records now, or Lindsey Buckingham. They have the technology now. It's not done anything for them. I think it's really good at taking marginal talents and making them sound quite good. I don't think it's elevated anybody that's terrific.
I mean, there are always guys. I mean, John Lennon who did crazy things with the technology they had.
Right. Yeah.
But I guess now you can do whatever like.
Although then there is the expectation that everything's letter perfect now too. If you go to like, there's I don't know, some review sites at GarageBand or Broadjam or these things where you say, oh, here's this. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
And everything's criticized. Oh, this is like flat. They came in early. Everything's expected to be letter perfect. All producers are just trying to get things right on the beat. Everything's to a click track or in the software, it's all on a grid. And if you can see if the sine wave doesn't match up to the grid, you'll slide things around.
It's not like the old albums where you could hear the breath intake or
and there are so many things on things that we love, like the Rolling Stones and Aretha Franklin. You can hear like mic stands falling in the background. Like it's there, and we're fine with it. Like I don't know what the need for perfection is right now.
Yeah. Well, there you go. You think we've done this thing?
I think we've done that.
We've done music. All right, this is great.
You betcha.
Well, thanks for doing this. This is awesome.
Excellent. Well, hopefully we'll be leaving a present. We'll get you some theme music one of these days.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
That'll be good. Yeah. What do you think? Theme music.
I think we're going to talk about it, but you need something strong in. Right. Like now are you going for the big announcer? Or are you going to...
I don't know. I got that thing that actually Mike Stutz wrote for me.
Okay.
I don't know what to do with it.
I think you put him over music. Let's see how that goes.
And maybe have someone else read it or something.
There's that, but then there's also the Mark Maron one where you just kind of come in and be yourself over music.
Oh, yeah.
That's
good.
I don't know. Either way. We'll see.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
All right, stay tuned. All right, well, Charlie Rex has been the guest. This is the Something Veteran Podcast. Thanks for listening.